Well, an old friend of ours is our next guest for this segment, Dr. Larry Rice, president of Rogers State University. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Sam. It's great to be back.
I haven't seen you, it's been over a year.
Yes, it has, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to come and visit and talk about Rogers State University.
Well, we're going to get into it. I have here funding history for the school. Man,
Tough,
we're getting hit.
dismal, ugly, whatever adjective you want to use, it's ugly.
Okay, we've talked about my sister. Now let's get into the budget.
Okay.
What's going to happen here?
Well, let me say, Sam, this is probably, I've been in higher education for over 30 years, and this is probably the most challenging year, and I've been president for over 8 years, and a privilege to be president. But this is the most challenging year that I believe, not only higher education, but our entire state. I think it's going to be one of those watershed moments in our state's history is what we do about this. But, and I can talk about Rogers State and the impact it's been. Last July, let me start with last July.
Sure.
Last July, appropriations were reduced $495,000. So we started July 1. Our year's July 1 to the following June. We started July 1 with $500,000 less than we did the year before. So we rock along, and we start about December, there's more revenue reductions. And so since July 1, we've taken over about $740,000 worth of revenue reductions. But we're not through yet. So before we hit the end of our year, the year that we're operating in, we probably will have about $1.2 million removed from our budget. That's painful. Now, we have been cutting costs. We have been taking away employee benefits. We've all suffered and shared in this pain. And basically, over the last 5 or 6 years, we've tried to reduce the university down to where anything that did not have an academic credit hour attached, that we no longer wanted to be in that business. Now, they were good programs, and I'll name some of them. The therapeutic writing program, great program, but we no longer could afford to help subsidize that program. Our child care was the first one. We closed the Innovation Center last year. We've taken all employees lost some of their supplemental retirement. We've outsourced food service. We've outsourced janitorial, and whenever you outsource something, Rogers State University employees lose their job as a general rule. So we've tried to be very prudent. We know we have to do things differently. So we've reduced our expenses through a variety of ways, including energy savings. At the same time, we knew that we had to raise a little more private money. So we're doing that. And but we will get through this, but it's going to be very, very challenging.
All of it comes under the heading of cost containment.
Cost containment, yes. And some things we have no control over, and I'll just give you a couple. We have no control over the utilities, for example. We have no control over certain insurance premiums and so forth. So there are some things we have no control over, and those usually escalate instead of going down.
Yeah.
So in addition to the budget cuts from the state, and again, we expect this operating year that ends June 30th, that before it's all over, we'll be reduced about $1.2 million. And we don't even like to think about July 1 next year, but it's coming. And so we're getting close to being back to the appropriated dollars that this university received when it started in 2000.
That's
getting
really
close.
scary, you know that.
It is
to
scary.
me.
It is scary. You look at what has happened on this hill in the last 16 years. We're 16 years old now as a university, and all the renovations and additions of modernizing the infrastructure it's been tremendous what has happened here. And it's not me. I have a lot of folks that make me look good every day. But we knew we had to start reducing cost, and so we've been working at this for a while, raising money and trying to figure out the best way to still provide a quality product at a reasonable price. And our enrollment's up. I think the proof is that we do have a quality product at a reasonable price.
There's been so much change sweeping across this campus, all of it good.
Yes.
So, I can't always say the good outweighs the bad. That's not always the case. But in this particular instance, this school has, you guys have been clawing your way to successful goals. Now, I have a couple of examples here. Your teaching school, you are a teaching school as opposed to a research school, and yet you encourage your instructors to do their own research.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Does that yield benefits for you?
It does. We have professors that generate their own research, and it may be, we have a noted expert in bat research, which is very important. We have researchers in water management, water quality, and it also strengthens them with the business community. When you have faculty and staff doing research in certain areas, obviously there's some business or outside link to the outside world. So yes, our mission is not research, but great faculty members engage in research, and that certainly helps them in their scholarly achievements.
Sure.
And they also publish. But our primary focus is teaching, and a point that's sometimes overlooked. In regional universities, we do not use graduate students. You get the full professor, the best teacher you can find in that classroom. You know, you do not get a graduate student. You get a full professor.
Your nursing program is starting to attract really serious attention.
It is. I say this without any reservation. The RSU Nurse is a brand. We have the best nursing school in the state, and how you measure that is when a student completes a nursing program at any school, they have to pass a state and national exam called the NCLEX. And our passage rate is always at the top. It doesn't matter if we're being compared to a research university or other regions or community college. We have the best passage rate of the first time. Sort of like when you get out of law school, you got to pass the bar exam. You get out of nursing school, you have to pass an exam to say that you're qualified in. And this is serious stuff. You know, we want good nurses, but the RSU Nurse is a brand and highly sought after.
And the demand is there.
The demand is there. There's been a demand for nurses. I was here in the mid-'80s when the nursing program was started. We started because there was a shortage of nurses. There's still a shortage of nurses, of course, but the educational needs of the nurse continues to rise. And so in Bartlesville, for example, they had a large community of workers with the LPN. So we developed a bridge program at the request of Jane Phillips Memorial Hospital to move the LPNs to RN status, and so to retrain them from LPN to RN because of the demands and the marketplace demands of an RN nurse. And so we have a great partnership with Bartlesville with the Jane Phillips Memorial Hospital with helping initiate that bridge program. We also offer it on this campus as well.
What about Pryor? How are things between Rogers State Campus and Pryor?
They're well, and I think we have not talked a lot about this, but in the last couple of years, thanks to the Mid-America Industrial Park and their trustees, they built a new campus for RSU in Pryor. Now, we've been in Pryor since 1985, but 5 miles to the south is the largest industrial park in Oklahoma, and so the Mid-America Industrial Park asked that we move to the park. And I told them we didn't have any money. They said, well, if we build it, will you come? And I said yes. And so we have a beautiful new building inside the park, almost 40,000 square feet, with some acreage set aside for future growth. And so we're doing some great things. We're doing some innovative things. We're exploring and partnering with Google. We're partnering with the Mid-America Industrial Park Administration. We're partnering with business and industry inside the park. And we're also, it opens up a really good avenue for concurrent enrollment for rural Mayes County. And so we're very proud of what's happening in Pryor. It's a beautiful place, and we hope that you tour it someday.
Someday I'd like that. But I'm reminded, as you're talking, about a fellow I heard speak about a year ago when we were just beginning to get the hints of how serious budget cuts were going to be. And he said, but you know, more often than not, budget cuts to education usually will cause educational leaders to think outside the box. And he said, it's amazing how many new and different ideas we get on how to survive.
Yes, and I would agree with that. We know higher education across this country, Sam, is in an upheaval. You know, you can read any major publication, it's in an upheaval. But I can tell you that Rogers State University is lean. We've been cutting for several years. Cost control, you call it whatever you want. Our faculty and staff have taken cuts, as well as our administration. We've tried to figure out how to be the best product for the most reasonable price, because we anticipated that the the support from the legislature through the appropriation process would continue to decline. It has in other states. And so we believe that we're well positioned to keep moving forward, but there is a limit. But enrollment is a very essential part because over half of our support comes from enrollment. That, you know, our decline in the appropriated funds has created a more demand to be funded by tuition and fees and private money.
Sure.
So we know that enrollment is a secret to a piece of our budget, is that we have to have strong enrollment, and last year our enrollment was up. This spring our credit hours are up, and that's where you get paid. Head counts for bragging rights, but credit hours, and so we know that that's a real secret, and we know that students have a choice.
We're running low on time, but I got to inject one thing, and this is strictly Sam's opinion.
Yes.
So you don't even have to get into this, but I wish lawmakers had listened when Henry Bellmon started the push for economic diversification in this state. We might not be in the shape we're in today.
I couldn't agree more. Governor Bellmon and I had the privilege of serving together. I was a freshman legislator from Mays and Rogers County in 1986, and he'd been elected governor for his second term, and we were lifelong friends until his death. He was a great leader. He was a great supporter of public education.
Still. We got less than 30 seconds. Athletics, still growing?
Still growing, still good. 121 student athletes was added to the Heartland's academic roles, and that's big because some of our competitors, they might have had 27. We had 121.
I got to cut you, and I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I want you back. That's all the time we have for this edition of Green Country. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next time.